Hey, this is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel. And who's ready for some fighting words? In this video, I want to talk about Stephen Fulton, Cool Boy, versus Inoue in Japan. Really quick, if you like the videos, please take the time right now to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. If you have, I would like to say thank you. And if you have recently, I'd like to say welcome. Also, if you could all hit that thumbs up button, it really does help and further along the channel. Let's jump into this video. So Stephen Fulton recently did an interview on The Last Stand with Brian Custard, in which case, he answered a few questions. And I think I pulled out the most important questions that I felt were, and that you probably want to listen to. So the first one was, well, how come you didn't do the rematch with Figueroa? In which case he's like, listen, I wanted to make that fight. Not only did I want to make that fight, I wanted to make that fight at 126 pounds, which I find interesting because you don't have a whole lot of power and pop at the weight that you fight at. So to go up in weight, you are now trusting solely on your skill level. That's it. Because it's not like you have that other thing. You no longer possessing Thor's hammer over here. So you're just solely boxing IQ, skill level, speed, accuracy, counterpunching, and winning by points, combinations. Nothing wrong with that. I thought it was a little strange, but you got to give him credit for that because I think ultimately all these guys are going to be moving up anyway. And it's now or never. Get your feet wet. So I totally understand that. The other thing that he said was, I just wanted to silence the naysayers. There are a lot of people who said that I lost the fight. So if I lost the fight, let's do it again. I personally don't believe he lost the fight. I'm not mad that he won. I also would not have been mad with a draw. But neither here nor there. Why? Because he's fighting Inoue in Japan. And I think this is by far a better fight ever than Figueroa versus Fulton. So by all means, me as a consumer, I'm happy because you stepped up, in my personal opinion. You stepped up in caliber opponent. So kudos to you and also kudos to me watching a great fight. It's funny because Stephen Fulton was asked, why Japan? And his response was, I just like the excitement. Now, I found that a little interesting. Let's be honest, okay? Yes, this is a sport, but it's also a business. Marketing-wise, it makes way more sense to do this in Japan. And although Stephen Fulton does have the belts, and, as Inoue is moving up, and he's challenging for these belts, Inoue is by far the more popular fighter of the two. So it makes way more sense for them to fight in Japan. In terms of marketing dollars, it makes way more sense. Also, not to say that Japan is an untapped market, but it's not as big of a market in boxing as it can be. And I think this is one of those fights that's going to open that door to make it an even bigger market. So yeah, by far, it's a better opportunity. It's bigger opportunity. Listen, do you think you're going to be making that same amount of money that you're making in Japan that you would be making in the States? I doubt it. I doubt it. And that's only because of the draw and the star power of Inoue. Let's just call a spade a spade. I got to be honest right there. Let's just call a spade a spade. That's because of the draw and the star power Inoue in his home country and what he can generate in his home country. That's that. So the next question was, do you feel like you could win a decision in Japan? In which case, Stephen Fulton said yes, very confidently. And let me just state this. Rightfully so. He should. He's undefeated and he's the champ. Inoue is coming up to challenge him. So rightfully so. He should believe that wholeheartedly in his heart and in his mind. Not to mention, if he never lost, you don't know how that feels. And you can't conceive something that you haven't actually gone through as of yet. So great for him to say that. However, to say that he can win a decision in Japan against Inoue, who's so loved and so cherished in his own homeland by his people, that would mean you'd have to be darn near perfect every round, every minute of every round. And I'm not saying that he can't be. If Stephen Fulton, I think, is properly conditioned and he's 150% dialed in and tuned in on the night of, I think he can be. The type of guy who can best Inoue and get a decision in Japan and have a darn near perfect fight. I definitely think he does possess the tools to do so. The question is, can he do so? I think that's the question. When you're dealing with a power puncher like Inoue, the reality is you will have, or who's a perfect example of this. So let me just sidebar this. You look at Deontay Wilder, you look at Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury is a much better boxer by far than Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder hits 10 times harder than Tyson Fury. Well, Tyson Fury had to be on every minute of every round. Deontay Wilder just needed to land a good punch. And that's the same thing when it comes to this fight with Inoue and Stephen Fulton. I think Stephen Fulton possesses all the natural attributes and all the skill and boxing knowledge in the ring. Absolutely. But when he's going up against a guy like Inoue, I think he needs to be careful. And I don't think there's going to be any moment or any lapse in time in the bout where he can take a breather or take a moment and admire the size of the crowd or capitalize on the fact that the crowd was cheering for him for one moment or whatever the case. That's not going to happen. Inoue's fast. Inoue hits really, really hard. And he can either put you out with one shot or he can stun you enough with one shot where that following shot is going to put you out. So you have to be 150% dialed in every single round, period. If you cannot do so, it's not going to be a very easy fight for you. And it can quickly turn into something else in terms of the fight. It can go from a brilliant boxing match by Stephen Fulton to a fight with Inoue in Japan. You decide. So then he follows up and says, well, I'm not going that far to fight a guy in his own country to get a decision. Now, obviously, that suggests that I plan on knocking this guy out. I plan on getting this guy out of there. I don't plan for the judges to be needed. As a matter of fact, they can go home early. Okay, so let's just start with the fact that Stephen Fulton doesn't have a whole lot of pop to begin with. However, we have to be honest, Inoue's coming up in weight. Well, that being said, they could very well be even in power. You got to understand, he's a smaller guy coming up. So they could be even in power. They could match out in power. Or Inoue may not be as strong as he was in that lower weight class, right? Because not everybody's power translates. Do I think it will? Yes, I think his power will translate. I think his power will translate just fine going up. But I have to go through every avenue, and it is a possibility, and it has happened. A perfect example of that is Adrian Broner. Dude was a real problem when he was fighting, in 136 and all that. He was a real problem. 140, he was a real problem. By the time he hit 147, the problem had been answered and solved and fixed. So, yeah, you never know. Some people, like Manny Pacquiao, can go up multiple weight classes and still can possess power. And then there's some people who cannot. And you don't know until you make the leap. So Brian also asked Stephen Fulton, can you keep Inoue off you? In which case, he said, listen, a lot of guys fight one way and then they fight me and they fight totally different. And, that reminds me of Floyd Mayweather. A lot of people say, oh, Floyd can't, he hits really soft. And I'm like, yeah, and I've said this for years. I've seen Floyd walk people down. I don't see anybody just standing in front of Floyd Mayweather. Like, I've never seen anybody just stand in front of him. Like, so you could say he doesn't have power, but if you don't necessarily have to listen. Do I punch like Deontay Wilder? No, I don't. But I promise you don't want to just stand in front of me. I hit hard enough to get your attention, and if you get 2 or 3 of these in a row, I promise I hit hard enough to rock you, to make you a little dizzy, to back you up, to back you off me. So I agree with that. I totally agree with that. Like, he just made the statement, and a lot of those guys don't fight the way they fight other opponents when they fight me. If I'm such a pillow puncher, you would think that they just walk right on through me. And I agree with that. I agree with that. Totally agree with that. And then he follows up, and this I do agree with. Listen, everybody hits hard when you have 8 ounce gloves on. I agree with that. 8 ounce gloves changes everything. We spar with 12, so okay, but them eights change things. The eights hurt. so I totally agree with that. I am totally on board with him saying that. But it's interesting because he followed up and he said, I really don't care about power. He said, I'm smart. And that's a very interesting answer, especially in boxing. Because all that boils down to is, listen, I have technique, I have timing, I understand range, I understand the ring, I understand footwork, I understand where to hit a man, I understand when to hit the man. I understand all these things. I'm smart. I could set a trap. I'm smart. I'm not putting all my eggs in the basket of a heavy hitter. Because when you put all your eggs in the basket of a heavy hitter, like all heavy hitters, they run across that one person that doesn't fall down. They don't get the memo. Tyson Fury didn't get the memo when Deontay Wilder hit him. He didn't get the memo. Oh, I'm supposed to stay down? When Tyson fought Holyfield, Holyfield did not get the memo. Oh, I'm supposed to fall when you hit me? Oh, I'm sorry. I deleted all my emails yesterday. Maybe it went to my spam. I don't know. I didn't get that one. I'm sorry. Yeah. So, listen, he had a lot of really good points, and he made me even more interested and invested into this fight, and I look forward to it. I think this is going to be a real banger, and I think it's going to do a lot for the smaller weight classes as well, and I think opening that door to Japan, because there's a ton of guys over there that can fight, so it opens up that door. Just like you saw the emergence, well, the coming of the Eastern European fighters. You're going to see the same thing with Japan. You're going to see the same thing with Japan. Yep, that door is going to open up, and that's going to open up Korea. That's going to open up China. It's going to open up a lot of things. And I say the more the merrier. Let's put everybody in this pot. Why not? Let's put everybody in this pot. Let's truly see who's the best. And that's basically it from this video. You have any comments? Please drop them down below. As always, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Please like, please share, please subscribe to this channel.